Hey guys, Jason Caskie, Sean Herrero. Today we want to talk to you about the fact that the purchase contract matters.
It matters.
The
Absolutely.
purchase contract matters. Sean and I were just sharing for almost an hour of stories that you have to deal with, stories I have to deal with, but the contract matters. What you write in this purchase offer, you're trying to buy a house, matters. We were talking about how the purchase contracts have changed a little bit over the last couple of months, and how important it is to have somebody who understands it and somebody who's representing you go through it to make sure that the contract is written up the way that you are agreeing to buy the house.
Right. In my world, you're the expert on this, but I think when we say we're submitting an offer, we don't think of an offer as being a contract. Right? So if you're the buyer's agent and you're submitting an offer, and you tell me if I'm wrong, if the seller accepts whatever you wrote up, you are now locked into that.
Yes, you are.
And vice versa, if you're a listing agent and you make a mistake on a seller counter, or what you tell me what it would be, you're locked into that.
Yes,
and we've both seen pretty big examples of things happen that either cost, well, I think they end up costing us money. If people make mistakes.
It always seems that way because nobody wants to take the blame, but
but it could end up costing the seller money. It could end up costing the buyer money, or it could put the home back on the market and both people out of the contract.
Right. And so what we mean by that too is that there's a lot of different pieces to the puzzle when you're putting an offer together, right? So there's the purchase price. There is, how many days till we close escrow? How many days are the contingencies for the buyer to look at inspections or get inspections done? Loan appraisal contingencies that you have, and whether you need a credit. These things are really, really important. And what we are seeing a lot of lately is when you're going through the purchase contract, you've got to prepare. You've got to be ready. So like when Sean and I are writing an offer, like Sean and I are talking, our buyers are talking, and it's, okay guys, hey, we're going to come in at $1 million, and we might need a credit for this amount. And the contingency period is, we can shorten it because I know I can get the appraisal done. I know this, I've done everything in advance to be able to get these buyers. I am confident that we can move forward with this. However, what we're seeing a few times is, and I know you talk about dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but there are a few boxes on the contract where, for example, if I'm representing the seller and a buyer writes a great offer and we counter offer them and we're asking for, say, $20,000 more. A lot of people are just sending out a counteroffer without actually checking the box on the purchase contract that says, so when the seller signs, it says subject to, check that box, subject to the seller counteroffer.
Right.
So we want $20,000 more. So if they don't check that box, that seller counteroffer really doesn't connect.
Yeah.
Even though people may know that and still go with, okay, I'm fine with that. There's little things like that that are pretty darn important.
Well, yeah, and I didn't know that last week. So I was talking to Jason about something I'm working on right now, and basically the seller had accepted. So the buyer submitted the offer, which is the contract. The seller accepted the contract, and then they sent a seller counteroffer, which is basically saying, hey, we like what you've done so far, but we'd like it to be a little different. And I looked at it, and I'm a little bit cutthroat when it comes to helping my buyers. I was like, I don't care what they wrote on this form, it doesn't matter, because they already accepted your offer. And I was telling Jason the story, he's like, but did they check the box on page whatever? And I was like, I don't look at those pages. Like, as a lender, those things aren't there. And sure enough, they had not checked that box. And the things they asked for were pretty minor. But had they asked for like an extra, hey, we like your offer, we just want $50,000 more for the house, buyer wouldn't have been obligated to that, because it's a little mistake that can make a massive difference. And so for me, people look at a real estate agent as, oh, they show me houses, they open doors. That's kind of what they do. The contract matters. Like, the offer is the contract. And if you don't have an agent who is crossing T's, dotting I's seems obvious, but really making sure these things are done properly, it could lead to expensive mistakes that someone has to pay for, or the contract falling apart and people not getting the house they want. And buying real estate, it's emotional, right? We call it a transaction. We call real estate a transaction. You're buying a house to live in, to build memories. It's a very emotional process. And this contract or this offer could make all the difference in how it's written.
And how important it is too that your team. So if you're buying a home, or obviously selling a home, but if you're buying a home, how important the team is to make sure everybody's on the same page. So, hey, you're out, put an offer on a house, and okay, you can qualify for this much. Well, don't put more on the contract, and now you're stuck, and then you're panicking in the 11th hour because you can't get a loan done.
That's right.
If you talk to Sean, and Sean's like, okay, hey, I can get you $1,050,000. What we can do is we can get a $20,000 credit. And I'm just throwing numbers out there. A $20,000 credit from the seller back, so it's like really you're paying $1,030,000, but you're getting 20 back, and that 20 grand we can use towards buying your interest rate down.
Yep.
These are things that are a little complex, but these are things that need to be spelled out so that when you do submit the offer, the seller and the seller's agent, the listing agent, understands exactly what they're getting into, and it's not just somebody throwing out an offer out there that says, okay, hey, we're getting $1,050,000, this is great, and then you're at the 11th hour, they're like, oh, we didn't see the addendum, or we didn't see the little piece that said that we're giving a $20,000 credit back.
Right.
You really got to pay attention to that stuff, because that could be a problem. Or like we were joking about, it's like the box of, hey, a buyer wants the fridge and the washer and dryer.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't check that, then guess what? They can take the seller and the washer and dryer. So there's so many intricacies of the importance of putting that together. Hey, it's fun to go out and look at homes, and I'm like, I really want this house, but you got to make sure that the contract is written right. You got to make sure that the agent knows it. You got to make sure the lender knows it. You got to make sure that your buyer understands it. And then when it's presented to the listing agent and to the seller, you got to make sure that they understand exactly what they're getting into when they sign off.
Yep.
So I think that is where, hey, I like going showing homes and properties and all that stuff. Okay, that's great. But the important part comes when that offer is written and the offer is accepted, without a doubt.
Because the offer is the contract.
The offer is the contract.
We always call it the offer. We need to start calling it the contract.
It is a contract.
Because we all need to think of it that way to make sure everyone has a great experience. We want buyers to have a great experience. We want sellers to have a great experience. On the washer dryer thing, like that seems like kind of not a big deal, right? Oh, it's just a washer or dryer. That happened on our house. The contract stated that the fridge was going to stay at the house. We move in, there's no fridge. Yeah. And I'm like, hey.
It happens more often than not. Well, more often than you believe, for sure.
The seller of our house moved to Idaho.
Yeah.
It was in his pod.
With the fridge.
Yeah, and I'm like, sweet, he'll just buy us, it's cheaper to just buy us a new one.
Yeah.
He drove it back from Idaho.
Did he really?
Yeah. Because I wasn't going to let go of, dude, it said right here that I get a fridge. The fridge isn't here.
Yep.
Well, how much is a fridge? $700? I don't know.
Well, it depends on how nice the fridge was, yeah.
So he drove it back. I didn't want him to drive 8 hours to bring a fridge back, but that's the contract said you have to do it.
Right.
So it matters. And
the contract matters, ladies and gentlemen. So any questions, reach out to us anytime. Sean Herrero, Cross Country Mortgage. Jason Caskie, Coldwell Banker. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Talk to you soon.